This time on KEI Fabrication.
The last day folks, that you see it. Trying to turn this into a race truck.
Hide all the women and children.
Hide all the women and children. Hide all the women and children. All the grinding's done. Time to clean the garage. Well folks, I just came back from the scrapyard. So I ran up to the scrapyard. Well, we're up here at the junkyard. Well, we're back in the junkyard. Well, it's a shop truck, it's a dump runner, and hopefully it'll be a race truck. Alright folks, trying to turn this into a race truck. That ought to do it. Well, the fire extinguisher is mounted. Well, maybe I'll give it a treat and clean out the interior. There, good as new. That should keep all the dirt out of my eyes when I'm driving around the racetrack. Oh yeah, I think SCCA requires you to have tow hooks front and rear. I think I have a solution to the back one. Oh yeah, and I think they're supposed to be painted red. In all seriousness, folks, I do take race prep seriously, so I do have a list here that I generated. The next thing I'm going to do is bleed the brakes, and I've always been trained that when you're going to go do some lap sessions or road racing or anything, you want to bleed the brakes just before you go, because if there's any moisture in the brake lines, you'll get a little more braking out of it before you start to run into problems. And then I'm going to torque the lugs, and that should be it. I do have a packing list that is I've generated and I'm working on, and I have a box that was designated as part of the things that we're doing for race week, and the spares list is pretty extensive, and there's a lot of stuff in there. Everything from, because I'm going road racing, I've got a spare set of brake pads, got a spare set of plugs, I've got fluids for just about every aspect that could be required, I've got a spare axle, I've got a spare drive shaft flange, some AN style hose, I've got spare rear end bearings, axle bearings, seals, all that kind of stuff that it might be overkill for what I'm doing this week, but certainly we were definitely prepping for drag week, and it is just benefiting for all the other events that I'm hoping to take in as we close out the season. Hey folks, as I was going through the race prep inspection, when I checked the brake pads, I noticed that the fronts were down about a third. It's about 2/3 left, so what I'll end up doing is using those as spares, and I'm throwing a new set in now. And so, might have to do a couple heat cycles on it to get them to seat before we get serious on the track. But I'm glad I checked them, because if I overheated those brake pads and they start getting thin, sometimes they crack. They crack, and the adhesion of the pad to the metal bracket there comes undone, and then you kick the pad off and you got a mess. So hopefully this will avoid having to address anything at the track. I've checked all the wheel bearings and hubs. They all look great. The rear brake pads are like brand new. So once I get done with just quickly swapping out these brake pads, we can load this thing on the trailer and go have some fun tomorrow. Well, I just had my wife come up and help me bleed the brakes, so that's all done. So we're going to put the wheels on, torque the lugs. I'm going to overinflate the tires, so when I get to the track, that temperature cools off or whatever, there'll be enough air pressure in the tires, and I can adjust them before I go out for the first session. So next step, as I said, put the wheels on, torque the lugs, and then it's going on the trailer. Next time on KEI Fabrication. But this is Thompson International Raceway. This is one of the corners of the road course, and I'm heading into the pits.